Hey guys, Brian Ben here with Professional Baseball Training. I'll be doing a hitting demo for you today. Going to be a lot of things that we cover. First, I just want to introduce myself, give a little background on myself, and then introduce my team of instructors, and then we'll get started, okay? So I was born and raised in the Baltimore area. Went on to play 4 years of varsity baseball at Mount St. Joe High School. Played 2 years at junior college, finishing up at Catonsville Community College with Dan Blue. Got drafted in 2005. I played until 2009, and I did baseball training in the off season. I've been doing it full time now for about, I'd say, 10 years. So glad to be here. Hopefully I can share some of my knowledge with you guys, and we'll go from there. Website, BaltimoreProfessionalBaseballTraining.com, BaltimorePBT.com for short. We're located right in Catonsville, about 1 mile west of 695. And about 4 miles east of Route 29 in Ellicott City, okay? Just real quick, I want to introduce my staff. Dave Byrode is our pitching guy. We got Ed Nottingham, who does hitting and catching, Bobby Boyd, who does hitting and infield, and Jonathan Lucido, who does hitting, catching, and infield, okay? Moving on here, we're going to go into the stance, all right? I want to share first the grip up close, so as you can see it. I was always taught to line up my knocking knuckles. The problem with that is when you get to contact, you have a top hand that's in a very weak position, okay? So you have a slightly bent top hand. What I was taught in professional baseball was to offset my top hand in between my left hand bottom knuckles, okay? And what that does, it flattens out my hands at the point of contact, which we call palm up, palm down, right? So once I take a grip of the bat, and I show you my grip, you can see my knuckles are slightly offset, okay? It just gives you a little stronger position. I always use the analogy of a boxer going for a knockout. If he was going for a gut punch, right, he doesn't want a bent top wrist. You want to have that nice, flat, strong wrist, all right, because that's going to hurt. So top hand flat, knuckles slightly offset, okay? Next thing I'm going to talk about is the width of our stance, how wide we start in the batter's box. I always tell hitters to be comfortable. If you're comfortable in the box, some guys like to start really wide, some guys start very narrow, some guys are in the middle, okay? I like to simplify, and I tell my guys to try to get their feet just outside their shoulders, all right? It puts you in a good lateral drive position, so you have good control of your body, nice and athletic. Some guys that start too narrow tend to lunge. Some guys that start too wide tend to get stuck on their backside and they can't drive off of it as good, okay? So width is just outside the shoulders is a good starting position. Hand position. I always tell my hitters to try to start somewhere right off the ear, just above the back shoulder, and nothing below the shoulder, okay? Nothing above the top of the head. So no Kevin Youkilis, no J.J. Hardy, okay? What you'll notice is it really doesn't matter how you start in your stance with your hand position, but when you get to your stride and load, I'd say 90% of hitters are identical, which is somewhere right off the back shoulder and right off the ear. So again, simplifying that takes away wasted motion, makes it a little easier, okay? Back elbow support. I know a lot of coaches always say, get that back elbow up, right? Well, we do want to support the center of the bat, okay? And the angle we want is somewhere around 45 degrees, okay? So if I get too high of a back elbow, that could change my angle to a more vertical position, which is going to it'd be harder to get back on plane, okay? So back elbow just supports the center of the bat, all right? So as you go to swing, you can start to tuck that in and you get the barrel on plane easier, okay? Some guys like to start too flat, some guys start too tall. Again, when we get to that stride and load launch position, we want to be somewhere around 45 degrees, okay? Moving on to square versus open and closed stances. I know a lot of players like to mess around with being open or closing themselves off like Giancarlo Stanton does. And then some hitters like to start square. I'm a simplified guy. I like to start nice and square. Again, it's comfortability. It's how you see the ball coming in if it looks good to you. I will say it is harder putting more motion into your swing when you start open or closed, okay? It's harder to stay square in your stride. So again, starting square is probably your best starting position. Weight distribution. Again, comfortability in the box. Some guys like to start loaded, some guys like to start center, okay? I like to tell guys to stay tension-free, okay? If you start to build up tension too early in your stance before the pitch comes in, that could hurt your swing later on. So starting tension-free is important. Starting 50-50 and then loading back to 60-40 is generally the weight distribution you want to see. So starting 50-50, moving back to 60-40, okay? And I'll probably touch on it again later, but that weight distribution back away from the baseball is going to help your visual. So you're going to start seeing the ball better. Guys that like to jump forward with their vision and lunge out in front, they're making a moving pitch look faster than it actually is. So we want to slow the ball down visually by moving away from the ball with your eyes to see the ball better, all perception. And lastly, I'm going to show you this. It's called plate coverage, okay? You guys can see the plate here. Move it back just a little bit in the video. All right. Plate coverage. Basically, when I step up to the plate, I want to know where I'm going to stand in relation to the outside corner of the plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my barrel of the bat, my barrel, on the outside corner of the plate. Okay? Now, where my handle is where my toe line should be. Okay? Now, this is called plate coverage. This gives me coverage of that outside corner of the plate without having to reach for that pitch. Okay? Now, if I feel like my posture has to reach or if I have to get extended away from my body, then I know right away that pitch is off the plate. Okay? If I'm a guy that stands too far away, that outside corner strike is going to feel like a ball. Right? So, a lot of hitters don't understand the strike zone very well because they don't have good plate coverage. So it's very important for them to get good plate coverage in their setup to have a good understanding of what a strike and what a ball is. Okay? It's very messed up. I mean, a lot of kids mess this up. So I'd say this is the first thing you would go over is the plate coverage part. Okay, making sure they're standing close enough or not too close to the plate. Okay? All right, moving on, we're going to get into the lower half mechanics. Now, I'm going to work through this pretty quick so I can get to the sequence of the swing. But there's basically 6 checkpoints in the lower half of our swing, okay? Number 1 is called heel over toe. And mind you, this is when you finish your swing. So when you finish your swing, we want to get to these checkpoints, okay? So, heel over toe position. Back foot, heel over toe. Okay? A lot of coaches, I know I was taught this at a young age, is to squash the bug. All right? Let the bug live. Okay? Do not squash the bug. Squashing the bug causes all your energy to go behind you. Okay? We want to drive into the baseball and get weight transfer towards a moving pitch. So we want to get to heel over toe so I get that weight transfer and I get that power from my backside. Okay? Again, if I spin, all my energy goes that way. I want to drive forward with this back knee and this back heel so I can get to that heel over toe position in my swing. Okay? So that's number 1, heel over toe. Number 2 is the back leg should be in a backwards L position. So my back leg should be in a backwards L here. Do not want to lock it out. Okay? Want to get to that backwards L for a right-handed hitter. Lefties are actually an L. All right? Front leg at the point of contact, we want to lock that front leg out, okay? Right at the point of contact. That's going to allow your hips and your shoulders to stay rotationally still, okay? It also allows you to stay behind the baseball and work up through your extension point, okay? A lot of guys will collapse that front leg and they sink everything down. So I want to make sure that front leg locks out right at contact. Front foot. When we swing, we want to make sure that front foot stays closed. If that front foot opens up, there's a good chance you're going to pull off the baseball. Pull off extension is what we call it. It's a chain reaction. Once the front foot flies open, the knee, the hip, the shoulder, and eventually the head are all going to follow that. Okay? And the tendency is to roll over as you pull off and you don't get your arms fully extended. Okay? So front foot stays closed. Some hitters will see guys stay 45 degrees open, which is perfectly fine. But I tell hitters to try to stay closed as best you can, okay? Hips, very basic. Make sure we rotate our hips fully square to the pitcher. And then lastly would be our weight distribution. When we finish our swing, we should be 50-50. And the best way to check that is to make sure that your head is in line with the back hip and the back knee in a straight line. And that tells you you're 50-50. Some guys will be forward, right? Some guys will be way back. So trying to get to that 50-50 position is a really good rotational swing. All right? Okay, moving on here. So that's all the lower half. Now we're going to address the upper half of the swing. We're going to talk about the hand slot and the bat path first. Hand slot. We want to make sure we coordinate the hands to be just above the baseball as the pitch comes in. Okay? That's just coordinating the swing. Also known as bat path. The path of the bat is going to be 2 inches below your hands. Okay, so if I coordinate my hand slot to be just above the baseball and my barrel should be 2 inches below my hands, there's a good chance I'm going to hit the bottom half of the ball pretty square. Okay, so again, hand slot should be about 2 inches above the ball, and the barrel should be about 2 inches below the hands. Okay, bottom half contact is what we're trying to hit. That creates that backspin for elevation, okay, and carry. Next would be hand position at contact. Okay, we talked briefly earlier about this with the grip. When we get to our contact point, we want to be palm up, palm down at contact. Okay, once we get to contact, we get to extending through the baseball to what we call the power V position. Your arm should create that letter V right up through here. Okay, get to that power V position out in front, palm facing up still. And once you get to that position, you're going to roll over and finish high, okay? Next is going to be the sequence of the swing. And this is the important part. All the lower half and upper half mechanics are great. They're very good checkpoints to understand, but the sequence is where we really have to nail it down, okay? First thing is our stride and load. So again, if I start nice and comfortable in my stance, nice and centered, 50-50, I'm going to take my stride and load back to 60-40, okay? You notice my back knee stays inside my foot, okay? Back up a little bit here. Back knee stays inside my back foot. When I load, I'm not getting outside, okay? So I'm loading, I'm staying on the inside of that back foot, 60-40. Once I get to my launch position, I'm gonna establish heel strike. That heel drop is gonna bring my weight transfer from 60-40 to 50-50, okay? And that's where we start to push off this back foot to create some power, all right? So stride and load, heel strike. At this point, I'm starting to rotate my hips. We call this hip separation, okay? If I can separate my hips before my shoulders and before my hands start, I'm creating what we call torque, okay? There's a stretch in your core area that creates energy to be released, all right? So, stride and load, heel strike, start the hips. Then I get to my slot position, right here. Hands should be just above the baseball as it's coming in. Barrel is going to start to get on plane with the ball. Barrel should be naturally about 2 inches below your hands. We get to our contact point, palm up, palm down. Extension, finish. Okay? So, that is the sequence of the swing. Sometimes what I'll do with my players is I'll take away the tee, I'll take away hitting a baseball, and I'll just have them do some mirror work, or I'll have them do some slow motion dry land work, just to understand the sequence and get that down, and then we'll graduate to the tee, okay? All right, I want to share some drills with you guys. I just got 3 drills listed for now. First drill I want to show you is a 2-tee drill. Grab another tee here. So as you can see, the first tee here is going to be where the ball sits, okay? The second tee is going to be about a foot behind it, all right? and it's going to be slightly offset to the outside part of the plate, okay? The idea here is we don't want to hit this back tee, okay? You can even raise it up a little bit if you want to, just so they don't try to swing over top of it. But we want to stay inside the baseball here, okay? And I know, a lot of coaches will say keep your hands inside the ball, which is correct, but our hands are always inside the baseball. There's only one thing that crosses the path of the baseball, and that is the barrel, right? The barrel is the only thing that crosses around the outside of the ball. My hands, if they ever get outside the ball, I'm going to get hit by the pitch. So in a sense, my hands are always inside, okay? It is important to keep our hands close to your body, right, for strength, but the barrel is the key. So if we can keep the barrel of the bat inside the path of the baseball until right before contact, you're going to withhold your power, your bat speed, all that stuff, okay? So this drill does great for that. We cannot hit this back tee, right? We're hitting the ball off the front tee. Can't hit the back tee. We got to keep the barrel of the bat inside the baseball until right before contact, okay? And that is called staying inside the baseball. Next drill is going to be the freeze drill. Freeze drill is a great drill for beginners, guys that are struggling with the mechanics of the swing, the checkpoints that we went over. What I have them do is hit off a tee. When they finish their swing, they take a 5-second freeze, okay? In those 5 seconds, they're going to look at their footwork and they're going to check and fix it. Reteaching that muscle memory is important. If we take the same wrong swing over and over, it's going to keep happening that way. So if we can fix it right then and there, physically, it's going to reteach them what it should be doing. And eventually, it starts to click in, okay? So freeze drill along with corrections, all right? Lastly is elevation tee drill. This is a good drill for coordination and bat path, okay? What you do is you just take one tee, and you're going to take a swing and then change the elevation of the tee on the next swing. So if I take a swing here, next swing might be here, okay? Next swing might be down here. And keep changing the height of the tee, which requires the hitter to adjust the hand path and bat path to coordinate bottom half contact, okay? Very good drill for that. So all these, there's thousands of drills I could go over, but those are 3 that I like that are very common flaws of hitters, getting around the ball, bad mechanics, and then not coordinating their swing properly, okay? Just to finish up here, again, feel free to visit the website, baltimorepbt.com. I also have a summer camp coming up for anybody interested. It's last week in July, I believe, if they lift the stay-at-home directive, hopefully. So stay tuned for that. And I'd be happy to take any questions and answers if anybody has any. Hope you guys learned something today, and I'll talk to you soon.